Hey everybody, welcome! This is a microphone shootout. We're going to figure out what boom mic we like the best. So for all these tests we ran, it was me, Parker, and then Doug, my partner in crime. We all kind of gave our comparisons and analysis of these different microphones. So today we are shooting out the Schoeps CMIT 5U, the Schoeps 541, which is the same thing as the Schoeps CMC 641. We're shooting out the Sennheiser 416, the Rode NTG-3, the Sanken CS-3e, the Slate digital ML-2 microphone. We're going to leave that in the natural setting. That also comes with software that models 10 different microphones. We're going to shoot out the Deity S2 microphone. We've got a lot of questions about that one. And of course, we're going to be shooting out the Rode VideoMic Pro. A lot of people ask if they can use the VideoMic Pro as a boom shotgun microphone, and we're going to test out the results for you in this video. So before we start, I want to make sure that you understand that test results will vary. If you went and replicated this test in your own home, it would yield slightly different results simply because everyone's voice is different, the mic placement is huge, and that plays a big role into everything. So mic placement is very key. Room, size, and tone is also very key. But without further ado, let's get started. So the first test was the indoor lobby close. Now this was replicating most nice natural sounding rooms with a big open space and breathability. So let's take a listen to those clips.
Test 1, 2, 3. 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 Test 1, 2, 3.
So my first pick for natural sounding in the lobby would be the Schoeps CMIT 5U. It seemed to be sounding exactly like what I was hearing in the room. The Schoeps 541, which is the same thing as the CMC 641, sounded really great and natural. It was just a little bit less bass than the Schoeps CMIT 5U. The ML-2 sounded really natural, but it had kind of a boost in high end compared to like the 541 that sounded a little bit unnatural. But keep in mind, this microphone comes with software that lets you model 10 different microphones, and that's always going to be an expanding library. So taking the price into consideration, it's got a pretty great sound. The Rode NTG-3 had a really nice natural sound with a slight bass bump in the low mids and then kind of a higher upper push that sometimes could be taken as a little bit too much, but in this case it sounded pretty nice and natural. The Sennheiser 416 sounded really similar to the Rode NTG-3, but it had a little bit more of that low mid bass bump than the NTG-3. The Sanken CS-3e had the biggest bass bump compared to the NTG-3 and the Sennheiser 416, but if you put in an EQ around 200 hertz and knock that out a little bit, that would yield almost the exact same results as the Schoeps CMIT 5U. So really great sounding microphone. The Deity had a tinny shush sound around 2K that was sounding kind of like a poorly placed lav microphone. It had a lot of shh kind of tone going to it, as you can hear in the test. So I didn't really like this microphone at all. My last pick in this test would be the Rode VideoMic Pro. I would pick it just below the Deity, even though the difference is very slight. It just had a little bit more of a muffled sound, and I didn't prefer it as much. So the next test was the isolation test. So with the isolation test, we wanted to test what would isolate the surrounding noise the most. So this is stuff that you would pick up like the air conditioner, or in this case, there was a server room running just around the corner, and kind of the overall reverb. So let's take a listen to those clips.
Test 1, 2, 3. 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 Test 1, 2, 3.
So the number one microphone for our choice was the Schoeps CMIT 5U. It seemed to have the most focused sound, pulling the voice from all that background noise. A close second behind the Schoeps would be the Schoeps 541, the Sanken CS-3e, the Rode NTG-3, the Sennheiser 416, and the Rode VideoMic Pro. Those all seem to be about the same. They're a little bit different, of course, but they all seem to isolate the voice about the same. My last choice would be the ML-2 and the Deity. The Deity would be the last choice just because it seemed to pick up the most nonsense going on and the reverb and the background noise. So the next test in the lobby close was the noise floor. So the noise floor is basically how much noise the microphones capture altogether. It's a little bit different than the isolation because it's kind of the self noise from the actual microphone itself plays into the factoring of that. So let's take a listen to those clips. For the noise test, my first choice would be the Sanken CS-3e. It measured in at the lowest noise floor from the results that we conducted in RX7. We took a sample of about 5 minutes from the whole microphone test on each thing, and we tested out the ratio of noise to signal, and the Sanken CS-3e produced the lowest noise. It also had the least amount of high end in the noise that it produced. Therefore, it wouldn't get in the way of your dialogue and your speech, whereas some of the other microphones picked up a lot more high end, and that could present a little bit of trouble interfering with some of your dialogue. So even though it seemed to have a little bit more bass, it would be a lot easier to clean, because that's what I look for in a microphone. How easy is this thing going to be to clean in post when I'm in conditions that I can't really clean up the other noise? The rest of the microphones, with the exception of the VideoMic Pro and the ML-2, came in a second. They all had a little bit different noise floor, and some of them ranked a little bit higher, like the Shep CMIT-5U had a higher noise floor, but overall they were pretty similar. And then in last place, we would put the Slate Digital ML-2 and the Rode VideoMic Pro. Those seem to be the noisiest and picking up the most all-around noise. The next test for the lobby close was the off-axis rejection. What I was looking for in this test is something that would make sure that the tone stayed the most natural throughout the talent moving around the microphone. So there's a sweet spot for a microphone, and as soon as you move outside of that, you're going to drop in volume, bass, and clarity. And clarity and volume being the thing that will change the most. So that was the determining factor in this test for us, making sure that as the talent moved around, those high sibilances and the clarity and the volume didn't sway too much. So let's take a listen to those clips.
Test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3. This video is brought to you by Test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3. This video is brought to you by Test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3. This video is brought to you by Test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3. This video is brought to you by Test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3. This video is brought to you by Test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3. This video is brought to you by Test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3. This video is brought to you by Test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3. This video is brought to you by...
The best microphones in this particular test for us seem to be the ML-2, the VideoMic Pro, the NTG-3, and the Shep's 541. They all seem to hold the voice pretty well and not change all the tone as Parker moved around. The next microphones were the 416, the Sanken, and the Deity. They all seemed to kind of drop a little bit of clarity and volume as he moved around. And then, of course, the last would be the Shep CMIT-5U. Now, the most important thing to note with this is mic placement. So oftentimes people will get in as close as they can and right up at talent. And then, talent will get in, they'll sit down, and they'll say, all right, so... And all of a sudden you're losing that microphone because it's picking up their forehead. So by placing your mics in a great spot, I recommend anywhere from 6 to 18 inches and buying a little bit of room, okay? Because a lot of people, especially like CEOs of companies, they don't usually have a lot of experience on camera, and so they're not gonna sit perfectly still. They're gonna move around, and they're gonna try and get comfortable, and they're gonna think, and they're gonna, bend over. So if your microphones are right here, and you have a microphone like, say, the Shep CMIT-5U, which has really great isolation, But if they move out of that axis, you're going to lose all that clarity. You're going to have to redo the take or just, keep rolling with it, and that mic will cut out all that good sound. So in this test, a lot of the mics perform pretty similar and really well because we had it in a really great place. So that is an important lesson on stressing mic placement. So for the next test, we are going to do 2 people in one shot. So me and Parker both sat in the shot, and we aimed the microphone down the middle of both of us. Now, obviously, that's not in the perfect sweet spot for everything, but again, mic placement comes into play here. So we wanted to make sure that it was pretty equally favoring both of us, which is why we shot it down the middle. And of course, your test results will vary depending on room, people's type of voice. Like Parker's voice is a lot lower than mine. So on some of the microphones, his voice was actually a lot louder than mine was, overpowering my dialogue as he talked over me. So let's take a listen to those clips. You can keep talking. It's fine.
So I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I'm looking
agree.
over here at the camera, then I'm looking at you, and it's important to know which mic's going to pick us up at the same time.
You can keep talking. It's fine.
So I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I'm looking
agree.
over here at the camera, then I'm looking at you, and it's important to know which mic's going to pick us up at the same time.
You can keep talking. It's fine.
So I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I'm looking
agree.
over here at the camera, then I'm looking at you, and it's important to know which mic's going to pick us up at the same time.
You can keep talking. It's fine.
So I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I'm looking
agree.
over here at the camera, then I'm looking at you, and it's important to know which mic's going to pick us up at the same time.
You can keep talking. It's fine.
So I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I'm looking
agree.
over here at the
agree.
camera, then I'm looking at you, and it's important to know which mic's going to pick us up at the same time.
You can keep talking. It's fine.
So I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I'm looking
agree.
over here at the
agree.
camera, then I'm looking at you, and it's important to know which mic's going to pick us up at the same time.
You can keep talking. It's fine.
So I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I'm looking
agree.
over here at the
agree.
camera, then I'm looking at you, and it's
we
important to
played a
know
hard game.
which mic's going to pick us up at the same time.
You can keep talking. It's fine.
So I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I'm looking
agree.
over here at the
agree.
camera, then I'm looking at you, and it's
we
important to
played a hard
know
game.
which mic's going to pick us up at the same time.
So on this test, my favorite was the Sheps 541. It seemed to be the most natural and hold both of us at a consistent volume and not letting one of us overpower the other, especially as we talked over each other, which can often happen in a 2-person interview. The second place I gave to the Sanken, the CMIT 5U, the NTG-3, and the 416. They all seemed to be about the same performance, but some of them favored Parker's lower voice more than others, like the Sanken and the 416, and which made him sound a lot more overpowering than I was. Third place would be the VideoMic Pro and the Deity. They just didn't seem to hold the voices consistently, and plus the tone didn't seem to be really natural and nice, so these would obviously be my last choice. So for the next test, we used the exact same position, but we raised the microphones 5 feet. On the close shot, we had the mics 2.5 feet away. On the wide shot, we had the mics 5 feet away. So let's take a listen to those clips.
Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away.
So of all these microphones, again, I like the CMIT 5U the best. It seemed to be the most natural, and it really had that great pull, resulting in something that was a lot more intelligible to hear the dialogue. I also really love the 541. It sounds really, really great. It picks up a little bit more of the reverb than the CMIT does, but depending on what you're after, that could be another great choice. The next first place winner for me would be the Sanken CS-3e. It kind of ties with the 541. It's a little bit heavier in the bass, but in post, that's almost something that I would prefer to have than not have, like say with the 541. So as a post engineer, I'd prefer that one to come in. But again, you're kind of splitting hairs with these. We did find though, however, with a 6 dB cut at 180, the Sanken sounded almost identical to the Sheps. It's just a little bit more bass. The Rode NTG-3 and the Sennheiser 416, they both sounded really similar. The 416 has that same lower bump. It's splitting hairs. I wouldn't say one was better than the other. They're both pretty great options. The next microphone I would pick would be the Rode VideoMic Pro. Even though it sounded a little bit muffled, it held a pretty decent tone. Last place would have to be the Deity. That 2K push and the room tone that it was picking up, it just really sounded super unnatural and not pleasant at all. And I wish I could rank it higher, but dead last for me on the Deity. So of course the next test was the isolation test. So let's take a listen to those clips.
Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now testing a wide shot to see how well the microphones pick up when they are 5 feet away.
At 5 feet away in this lobby shot, we kind of ranked the Sanken and the CMIT around the exact same. They both seem to pull the vocal really nice out of the reverb and all the noise going on around it. And just like in the tone test, knocking out at around 180, about 6 dB on the Sanken, was almost identical to the CMIT. They almost had an indistinguishable sound with the given mic placement. The next was the Sheps 541. It sounded really good, but it was a little bit more distant sounding than the shotgun microphones we were using, which given the type of microphone it is, it makes sense. The Rode NTG-3 and the Sennheiser 416 yielded almost identical results again. They kind of sucked out the vocal about the same. The last place would be the Deity, VideoMic Pro, and the ML-2. They just picked up so much of the room. Of those three, I would pick the VideoMic Pro, but I would use those other microphones before I use any of those three. So for the off-axis rejection in this test, so let's take a listen to those clips.
I'm currently on axis in the wide shot. I am now off axis. I'm currently on axis in the wide shot. I am now off axis. I'm currently on axis in the wide shot. I am now off axis. I'm currently on axis in the wide shot. I am now off axis. I'm currently on axis in the wide shot. I am now off axis. I'm currently on axis in the wide shot. I am now off axis. I'm currently on axis in the wide shot. I am now off axis. I'm currently on axis in the wide shot. I am now off axis.
For the off-axis rejection test on this lobby wide shot, we ranked the Sheps 541 and the Sanken at the top. We had the Slate Digital ML-2 and the Rode VideoMic Pro next. And in last place, we had the more directional microphones, the CMIT 5U, the NTG-3, the 416, and the Deity S2. The next test was the 2 people in 1 shot test. So let's take a listen to those clips.
Hiccup.
Hiccup is
Both
the
of our
word he's
voices
after, yes.
Talking at each other, talking at camera, on axis, off axis.
Off axis.
Hiccup.
Hiccup is
Both
the
of our
word he's
voices
after, yes.
Talking at each other, talking at camera, on axis, off axis.
Off axis.
Hiccup.
Hiccup is
Both
the
of our
word he's
voices
after, yes.
Talking at each other, talking at camera, on axis, off axis.
Off axis.
Hiccup.
Hiccup is
Both
the
of our
word he's
voices
after, yes.
Talking at each other, talking at camera, on axis, off axis.
Off axis.
Hiccup.
Hiccup is
Both
the
of our
word he's
voices
after, yes.
Talking at each other, talking at camera, on axis, off axis.
Off axis.
Hiccup.
Hiccup is
Both
the
of our
word he's
voices
after, yes.
Talking at each other, talking at camera, on axis, off axis.
Off axis.
Hiccup.
Hiccup is
Both
the
of our
word he's
voices
after, yes.
Talking at each other, talking at camera, on axis, off axis.
Off axis.
Hiccup.
Hiccup is
Both
the
of our
word he's
voices
after, yes.
Talking at each other, talking at camera, on axis, off axis.
Off axis. The most natural sounding for us with the 2 people in one shot was the Sanken, the 541, and the CMIT. Second place was the Rode NTG-3, the Sennheiser 416, the Slate Digital ML-2, and the Video-May Pro. They were all pretty much the same in the 2 people one shot tone and off-axis rejection test. Last place, I'm sorry again, it's that Deity S2 mic. It just didn't sound great, it picked up a ton of the room, and just really would not be my choice. Our next test was the outdoor test. So again, this was 2.5 feet away, but outside. One thing to keep in mind is that we didn't have any wing covers on any of the microphones. We just put blimps on top of all the microphones as a whole. And of those microphones, the Schoeps 541 seemed to pick up the most wind. The first test up outside, of course, was the natural tone test. So let's take a listen to those clips.
Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away.
My top pick again for this one was the Schoeps CMIT 5U. It seemed to be the most natural sounding and sound just like I was hearing outside. Second place and not far behind was the Rode NTG-3, the Sennheiser 416, the Slate Digital ML-2, the Schoeps 541, and the Sanken CS-3e. Last place would be the Deity S2 microphone and the Rode Video-May Pro microphone. Just because of the things that we already talked about, the Rode Video-May Pro is really muffled, and the Deity has that shushy 2K push that just doesn't sound lovely. Sorry. The next test was the isolation test. In this test, we had me talking in the background as Parker was talking, so I was looking for 2 things. Rejection of Rode and outside noises that you typically hear, and also voice rejection.
Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're going to have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away.
So this one tied between the Schoeps CMIT 5U and the Sanken CS-3e. The Sanken did a better job at rejecting outside noise and the normal traffic and birds and all that, but it did pick up more voice than the CMIT 5U, which was a little bit more focused, even though it didn't reject as much outside noise as the Sanken. If you're working a lot with, say, a news interview that's someone always walking by the highway, the Sanken would be a great choice. If you're working in somewhere that's like a park outside, then the CMIT 5U would be the choice here. Second place, I would pick the Rode NTG-3 and the Sennheiser 416, sounding about the same, and then the Schoeps 541. And then last place, again, would be the Deity, the Rode Video-May Pro, and in this case, the Slate Digital ML-2, just because it picks up a lot of that surrounding noise. The next test is the noise floor outside. Like I mentioned, the Sanken CS-3e would come in first as far as the noise floor, just because the self noise of the microphone itself, plus of what it picks up outside. Not far behind was the Schoeps CMIT 5U, the Rode NTG-3, and the Sennheiser 416. The last place would be the Slate Digital ML-2, the Schoeps 541, the, you're never gonna guess, Rode Video-May Pro, and the Deity S2 microphone. I'm so sorry, Deity, I'm sorry. The next test was the off-axis rejection test outside. Now they may not go this far, but they may kind of go like this, you know. Now they may not go this far, but they may kind of go like this, you know. Now they may not go this far, but they may kind of go like this, you know. Now they may not go this far, but they may kind of go like this, you know. Now they may not go this far, but they may kind of go like this, you know. Now they may not go this far, but they may kind of go like this, you know. Now they may not go this far, but they may kind of go like this, you know. Now they may not go this far, but they may kind of go like this, you know. The mics that kept the sound most natural and the volume most consistent were the Senken CS-3e, Sheps 541, and the Sheps CMIT 5U. Second place, we would rank the Rode NTG-3, the Sennheiser 416, and the Slate Digital ML-2. Last place being, you're never going to guess, the Rode VideoMic Pro, the Deity S2 microphone. The next test, of course, was the 2 people 1 shot outside. So let's take a listen to those clips.
I clap a lot. I'm moving my hands like this a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, shoot,
noise.
that really picked up
It
really
does
bad.
pick up.
I clap a lot.
Claps.
I'm moving my hands like this a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, shoot,
noise.
that really picked up
It
really
does pick
bad.
up.
I clap a lot.
Claps.
I'm moving my hands like this a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, shoot,
noise.
that really picked up
It
really
does pick
bad.
up.
I clap a lot.
Claps.
I'm moving my hands like this a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, shoot,
noise.
that really picked up
It
really
does pick
bad.
up.
I clap a lot.
Claps.
I'm moving my hands like this a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, shoot,
noise.
that really picked up
It
really
does pick
bad.
up.
I clap a lot.
Claps.
I'm moving my hands like this a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, shoot,
noise.
that really picked up
It
really
does pick
bad.
up.
I clap a lot.
Claps.
I'm moving my hands like this a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, shoot,
noise.
that really picked up
It
really
does pick
bad.
up.
I clap a lot.
Claps.
I'm moving my hands like this a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, shoot,
noise.
that really picked up
It
really
does pick
bad.
up. So again, my first pick on this one that sounded the best with both of us would be the Sheps CMIT 5U. It just seemed to hold us both really well, while not favoring one or the other, keeping it really nice and consistent. Second place would be the NTG-3, 416, ML-2, and the 541. Third place would be the Rode VideoMic Pro, and I hate to say it, I was going to group the VideoMic Pro and the Deity in the same category, but the Deity in this case was just so much worse that it had to be in its own category. It just really didn't perform well, so it would be my absolute last choice, shooting 2 people in 1 shot outside. Of course, we now are moving far away outside, so for the next test, it was 5 feet away outside, same position. So let's take a listen to those clips.
Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by.
Of course, starting with the tone test, I ranked the Senken CS-3e as the most natural sounding on this one. Out of all the microphones, this is something that I would want to receive in post. It just seemed to be the most smooth overall, at least at this distance. Second place on this one would be the CMIT 5U and the Rode NTG-3. Third place, I picked the 416, Slate Digital ML-2, and the Sheps 541. Last place, of course, unfortunately, the Rode VideoMic Pro and the Deity S2 microphone. They just picked up a lot of crap and didn't sound great. Our next test was the isolation test. So let's take a listen to those clips.
Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by. Test 1, 2, 3. This is a wide test outside with cars going by.
From what we heard and liked, we liked the CMIT 5U as number 1 and the Senken CS-3e. They seem to isolate the voice the most. Next would be the NTG-3, the 416, the ML-2, and the 541. Last place, you're never going to guess, it was the VideoMic Pro and the Deity S2. Those microphones just picked up way too much outside noise. Even though I would rank the VideoMic Pro a little bit higher, it was a little bit more focused. But overall, again, these would unfortunately be my last choice. The next test was the off-axis rejection test. Again. So let's take a listen to those clips. Is this a broken record?
How well does it pick up my voice no matter where I'm at, which way I'm pointing? How well does it pick up my voice no matter where I'm at, which way I'm pointing? How well does it pick up my voice no matter where I'm at, which way I'm pointing? How well does it pick up my voice no matter where I'm at, which way I'm pointing? How well does it pick up my voice no matter where I'm at, which way I'm pointing? How well does it pick up my voice no matter where I'm at, which way I'm pointing? How well does it pick up my voice no matter where I'm at, which way I'm pointing? How well does it pick up my voice no matter where I'm at, which way I'm pointing?
For the first place, we picked the 541, the Sanken CS-3e, and the CMIT-5U. They all seem to hold the off-axis pretty freaking well. Second place and not far behind was the 416, the NTG-3, and the ML-2. And last place, surprisingly, was the D80S2 microphone and the Rode VideoMic Pro. The next test was the 2 people in 1 shot 5 feet away outside. So let's take a listen to those clips. So here we are, we're outside.
This is the 2-person test.
This is a 2-person
we
test.
got the mic, it's a wide, so we
wide,
got 5 feet away.
5 feet away. So here we are, we're outside.
This is the 2-person test.
This is a 2-person
we
test.
got the mic, it's a wide, so we
wide,
got 5 feet away.
5 feet away. So here we are, we're outside.
This is the 2-person test.
This is a 2-person test.
We got the mic, it's a wide, so we
wide,
got 5 feet away.
5 feet away. So here we are, we're outside.
This is the 2-person test.
This is a 2-person test.
We got the mic, it's a wide, so we
wide,
got 5 feet away.
5 feet away. So here we are, we're outside.
This is the 2-person test.
This is a 2-person test.
We got the mic, it's a wide, so we
wide,
got 5 feet away.
5 feet away. So here we are, we're outside.
This is the 2-person test.
This is a 2-person test.
We got the mic, it's a wide, so we
wide,
got 5 feet away.
5 feet away. So here we are, we're outside.
This is the 2-person test.
This is a 2-person test.
We got the mic, it's a wide, so we
wide,
got 5 feet away.
5 feet away. So here we are, we're outside.
This is the 2-person test.
This is a 2-person test.
We got the mic, it's a wide, so we
wide,
got 5 feet away.
5 feet away. For our pick, the Sanken CS-3e and the NTG-3 seem to be our favorites. They seem to hold the talent fairly well, keep the volume pretty consistent, and holding the most natural tone. Not far behind was the 416, the CMIT-5U, the ML-2, and the 541. None of these was necessarily better or worse than the other. They all just kind of were different, especially like the 541 and the ML-2 compared to the 416 and CMIT-5U. So that's why we kind of stuck all them together. Then in last place, surprisingly, was the CMIT-5U, the Sanken CS-3e. Just kidding, it was the VideoMic Pro and the D80S2. Unbelievable, right? They just didn't have good tone. They didn't pick up the people very well. They picked up a lot of outside noise that was distracting from the actual dialogue, which is something that you need to notice when you're picking out a microphone, not in just the 2 people in 1 shot and outside or inside or 1 person in 1 shot. It doesn't matter. If you can't understand the dialogue because of the noise going on in the background, so in this case, the D80 and the VideoMic Pro picked up a ton of the outside noise, your brain automatically jumps to, oh, there's traffic. Oh, there's a dog barking. Oh, there's someone talking. You got to make sure that that dialogue is focused and intelligible so you can know what the person is saying without thinking about other things. For the next test, we went into the worst sounding area in the studio that we could possibly find. It was the entryway. We pulled out all the rugs. We pulled out all the plants. We pulled out everything that was making it sound like a decent entryway, and it resulted in this.
Wow, that is some good audio.
As you can tell, it doesn't sound great at all. So I was really interested to see what microphones would even hold up in this test. Let's start with the tone test. So let
Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place.
The first place for me in this test would be the CMIT-5U and the 541. The 541 seemed to be a little bit more natural sounding, even though it picked up a lot of that nasty reverb going on. The CMIT seemed to reject a lot of that reverb, but it sounded a little bit more constricting. It wasn't enough for me to say, oh, one was way better than the other, so for this reason, I'm giving both of them first place. Second place on this test, I would give to the Senken CS-3e, the NTG-3, and the 416, and also the ML-2. The first three giving a little bit more of that bass bump that kind of made it a little bit clogged, but the latter, the ML-2, making that overly bright, gross early reflection kind of a lot more noticeable. So they were all kind of on the even ground there at second place. And the mics that came in last place, you're never going to believe this. It was a huge shock to both me and Doug, the D80S2 microphone and the Rode VideoMic Pro. They, of course, were picking up a ton of that gross room and really making that dialogue hard to even focus on because it sounded so bad. The next test was the isolation test. Clips.
Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. Test 1, 2, 3. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place.
For this one, the 541 and the CMIT both again won out on the isolation test, but like I mentioned in the tone test, the 541 picked up a little bit more reverb, but on both of them, the dialogue seemed to be pretty focused. Second place was the Deity, Senken CS-3e, and the NTG-3. Last place on this one, we gave to the ML-2 and the 416. Simply because the ML-2 picked up a ton of that reverb going on, and the 416 had that extra bass bump that really kind of made it sound really jumbly and messy and muffled. The next test was the 2 people in 1 shot in the gross room. So let's take a listen to those clips.
So we're in the reflective room.
We're in the reflective.
The mic's 2.5 feet away.
2.5 feet away. I don't think we're on the same plane. There we go.
Who cares? So we're in the reflective room.
We're in the reflective.
The mic's 2.5 feet away.
2.5 feet away. I don't think we're on the same plane. There we go.
Who cares? So we're in the reflective room.
We're in the reflective.
The mic's 2.5 feet away.
2.5 feet away. I don't think we're on the same plane. There we go.
Who cares? So we're in the reflective room.
We're in the reflective.
The mic's 2.5 feet away.
2.5 feet away. I don't think we're on the same plane. There we go.
Who cares? So we're in the reflective room.
We're in the reflective.
The mic's 2.5 feet away.
2.5 feet away. I don't think we're on the same plane. There we go.
Who cares? So we're in the reflective room.
We're in the reflective.
The mic's 2.5 feet away.
2.5 feet away. I don't think we're on the same plane. There we go.
Who cares? So we're in the reflective room.
We're in the reflective.
The mic's 2.5 feet away.
2.5 feet away. I don't think we're on the same plane. There we go.
Who cares? So we're in the reflective room.
We're in the reflective.
The mic's 2.5 feet away.
2.5 feet away. I don't think we're on the same plane. There we go.
Who cares?
Both Doug and I ranked the NTG-3 as number 1 on this one. It just seemed to keep everything most natural. Again, volume consistent, especially as we were moving around. Second place was the Senken CS-3e, Sennheiser 416, Slate Digital ML-2, and the Schoeps CMIT-5U, and the Schoeps 541. Last place, I couldn't even believe it myself, the D80S2 microphone and the Rode VideoMic Pro. The next test, of course, was the exact same spot, but this time again, we pulled the microphones 5 feet away instead of 2.5 feet away like we did on the close shot. So the first test up is the tone test. Does it sound natural?
This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away.
Both Doug and I ranked the CMIT-5U as the number 1. It sounded the most natural. Second place was the Sanken CS-3e, the Sennheiser 416, the Rode NTG-3, and the Schoeps 541. Last place was the Slate Digital ML-2, the VideoMic Pro, and the Deity microphone. Our next test was the isolation in this awful space.
It is 12:30! This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away. This test is the wide shot with the microphones 5 feet away.
The Schoeps 541 and the Sanken CS-3e really seemed to take the cake on this one. All of them sounded pretty bad, but these ones sounded easily the best, with the dialogue being the most intelligible and easy to understand. Second place was the Schoeps CMIT 5U, the Rode NTG-3, the Sennheiser 416, and the Slate Digital ML-2. Third place on this unfortunate test was the VideoMic Pro and the Deity S2 microphone. VideoMic Pro was kind of accenting the grossness of it. The Deity just got the whole slew of the whole thing. It was a hogwash, a bosh, bish, bosh. Our next test was the infamous off-axis rejection test.
So let's take a listen to those clips.
I got my foot in a crack here. 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 The CMIT 5U and the 541 were our first choice, keeping the dialogue most consistent without dropping off in both volume and clarity, and of course, you know, that nice sweet bass, which of course this room didn't have any of, but that's okay. In second place, we had the Rode NTG-3, the Sennheiser 416, and the Sanken CS-3e, and also the Slate Digital ML-2. Ha! Third place, I was so shocked to find out that the Rode VideoMic Pro and the Deity S2 microphone placed last place. It was mind-blowing to me, but it happened on this test. Of course, our last test was the 2 people, 1 shot. So let's take a listen to those clips.
You guys be careful. Do not put your audio on the onboard camera,
Because this is what it sounds like.
You guys be careful. Do not put your audio on the onboard camera.
Because this is what it sounds like.
You guys be careful. Do not put your audio on the onboard camera.
Because this is what it sounds like.
You guys be careful. Do not put your audio on the onboard camera.
Because this is what it sounds like.
You guys be careful. Do not put your audio on the onboard camera.
Because this is what it sounds like.
You guys be careful. Do not put your audio on the onboard camera.
Because this is what it sounds like.
You guys be careful. Do not put your audio on the onboard camera.
Because this is what it sounds like.
You guys be careful. Do not put your audio on the onboard camera.
Because this is what it sounds like. In first place, Doug and I picked the 541 and the Sanken. They seem to be the most consistent and keeping the dialogue most intelligible. Second place, the Rode NTG-3, the Sennheiser 416, the CMIT 5U, and of course the ML-2. Last place, I was shocked to find out, the Rode VideoMic Pro and the Deity S2 microphone. Something to note with all of these microphones and this room was they just all didn't sound that great. It was kind of splitting hairs. But in some cases, there was a clear winner and a clear loser. So to sum all this nonsense up, what a lot of testing, what a lot of me blabbing for a very long time. Okay, so to be completely honest, I am actually a little bit surprised by these results, and in these particular areas. I wanted and really hoped that the Deity S2 microphone would be a lot better than it was. I've heard a lot of rave reviews. I've had a ton of people say, oh, I just picked it up. It was so cheap, and it's so good. It sounds so great. And you know what? Maybe by itself, if you just got it, you didn't compare it next to another one, it would sound pretty decent. However, putting it next to all of these microphones, and not just the super expensive ones, because again, the ML-2 comes in at $150. The Deity I can't recommend. Plus being over a full ounce heavier than the Rode NTG-3 and the Sennheiser 416. It just really is going to weigh you down after a long day of booming. Another really big surprise for me was that the VideoMic Pro didn't come in dead last. I was expecting it to just be hands down the worst because of, the way it's marketed. But this mic really held its own up against a lot of these higher end shotguns. Now, of course, I wouldn't recommend it for someone that's like really serious about this and wants the absolute best audio, but for something at that price point, I always recommend getting one, throwing it on top of your camera, and if you're booming and you've got one of those, you're gonna end up with great audio. Now, I've been wanting to test out this Slate Digital ML-2 microphone since it came out, especially looking at the form factor and the size and the weight, and especially the cost. I was like, you know what, would this be great in the field? Now, after doing this test, I wouldn't recommend it as your primary boom, or even necessarily as something that I would think, oh, I'm gonna throw that up. However, at $150, plus it coming with software to model 10 different microphones and more, it's honestly a no-brainer. So if you've got $150 and if you ever record voiceover or anything and you need an extra microphone to go with you on the road, it's kind of a no-brainer. I don't know about durability, but I imagine it'll hold up pretty well. One of the biggest surprises I had overall of this whole test was how similar the Rode NTG-3 and the Sennheiser 416 sounded. On almost every single test that Doug and I did blind, it was almost indistinguishable on these two microphones. They always tested about the same. The biggest difference that we noticed is that the NTG-3 seems to have a little bit more of a high-end push. Now, this has never really presented a problem, but if you get an actor that has a lot of sibilant S's, that could almost come across as a little bit cheap sounding compared to the high end on the 416. However, the 416 has a little bit lower bump that could make people with lower voices have a little bit more cloggy of a sound. So to say one is better than the other, I have a hard time saying that one is better than the other. They're both super rugged. They can go through anything. They can take a beating. They can take humidity, falling down, whatever. Having worked with both in the field, I will say that the Rode NTG-3 is a lot easier to actually boom with. The off-axis rejection is a lot smaller, so if you lose somebody as they walk off out of your axis, it's not going to have a sharp cutoff like it will on the 416. So if you're a beginner boomer, or you're looking to get into it, or you don't really know anything about it at all, I highly, highly recommend the NTG-3. Because the 416 is going to require a lot more skill at keeping that talent in the axis. And given the fact that tonal-wise they're pretty much similar and the price difference is $300, again, if you're beginning, I highly recommend the NTG-3. However, if you're looking for an all-around great microphone, amazing durability, it'll get you through anything, you can't go wrong with either microphone. For the Senken CS-3e, I was actually surprised hearing it next to all the other microphones, how much of that low-end pickup that it had, like the low-mid rumble and kind of muddiness. However, I would argue that this is what makes it such a great microphone for far away and improv type situations. The off-axis rejection is amazing. I've been using the CS-3e a lot on a series that I'm working on right now that's a lot of improv. And so to have the flexibility of you're miking someone and then this person starts talking and swing over without noticing a huge tonal change is massive, because it helps me keep everyone in a sweet spot and also just really get a great sound. I was on set today, actually, shooting, and there were 3 people on a couch, and I had only one chance to get it. I had to lock off the boom, so I shot it in the middle, and all 3 people picked up pretty well. There wasn't really that much off-axis rejection. So if you're looking at doing improv or you have a lot of that kind of stuff going on, I can't recommend this mic enough. It's amazing. However, like we noticed in the outdoor test, this could be a little bit playing to your disadvantage if you are in an area where there's tons of people talking, because it does seem to pick up voices better, even though it rejects stuff like outdoor noises like traffic and birds and those kind of things. So as far as voices, it's a little bit wide, and other noises, it's very centered. Plus, that little extra bump in the low end makes it nice for booming really far situations, because it kind of makes your ear perceive the dialogue as a little bit more intelligible than, say, something like the 541, 641, where it cuts out that low bump. And so in post, you can use that to your advantage to kind of suck the dialogue a little bit more away from the noise floor. The Schoeps 541 mic, also known currently as the 641 microphone, the only difference being the preamp in it. Mine is the older version, the newer one is a 6. It's an incredible microphone. It really picks up a lot of the nice natural sounding rooms. Now, it wouldn't be my first choice if I were miking someone, say, 5 feet away, as we saw in the test results, but it really just, what you're hearing in person is what's going in the microphone. And I like that it doesn't have that low bump like some of the other shotguns do, because when you're working in post, especially like in an action scene, having that ability to have the dialogue like come in from dailies or whatever, it'll just naturally cut through a mix rather than get a little bit clogged like, say, the CS-3e. Its ability to cut out background noise like AC hum and super weird reverbs is incredible. I highly recommend it for indoor type shoots just because of the pickup pattern. It's also really, really lightweight. So when you're booming with it all day long, that weight adds up. So with its small form factor and being lightweight, you can get into tight cram spaces and not have to wear out your arms if you're extended on a full pole all day long. The biggest downside to me to this microphone is the handling noise. Now, I can't say whether that's been improved on the 641, but I know I've got the 441 and the 541, and both of those really pick up handling noise a lot. So if you're in conditions where your cords are banging against the pole or you're moving it around a lot, be extra careful for that. However, those aren't, negatives enough to keep me from stopping using the microphone. Always when I'm on set, I reach for that microphone. I keep it in my pocket because it's so small. And if I need to swap out any other mic I'm currently using, I just throw that thing on there because it sounds so great. The Schoeps CMIT-5U is an absolutely incredible microphone. Not only does it sound great, it looks great with that sexy blue. You can also get it in chroma green. I mean, who doesn't want that? With its onboard high shelf and low pass filters, it makes it an amazingly diverse tool because those low pass filters will really kill out that handling noise and wind noise. I've experienced that a ton on set. You throw that thing on, wind is gone, even with just a foam on there. You don't even need like a softy or a blimp. Obviously, if it's super windy, throw it on, sure. But if you want a microphone that's going to sound incredibly natural, CMIT-5U. Anything that Schoeps makes, I've been just absolutely blown away with. What you're hearing in person is what's going in through the microphone. The CMIT does have a little bit more of a low-end boost compared to the 541, but I wouldn't say one is necessarily better than the other. It's just a little bit warmer sounding. The one downside, which is also the great thing about this microphone, is its off-axis rejection. I would not recommend this microphone if you're doing something that's improv that you have no idea when one actor is going to say something or not. The CS-3e is going to do that really well. This one, because of how well it rejects outside noise, it's not going to be my first choice for something like that. The biggest overall lesson I learned with this entire thing was room. If your room sucks, your recording is going to suck. When we went in the super echoey room, it all sounded awful. None of the microphones were that much better than the other microphones, okay? Even though they were like different, it was all pretty bad. So if you've got a bad sounding room, you're going to end up with a bad sounding recording, regardless of where you place your microphones, which was the next thing that was the most important thing I wanted to stress is mic placement. If you don't have your mics placed in the correct position, all of it is going to suck. You could spend $10 on a microphone, you could spend 10 grand on a microphone. It's not going to matter because if you're capturing the sound of someone's balding spot on the back of their head, it'll suck. It'll all sound muffled. Planning out your mic placement is going to make the hugest difference in tone, arguably a lot more than the microphone at the end of the pole. Now, like you heard in all these tests and after our opinions, if you place them correctly, there will be a difference. But if you don't know how to place a microphone, that should be the first thing you learn rather than feeling like after hearing this, oh, well, I just have a blank. I need to go out and buy blank. That is not what we're trying to say. Another lesson that I learned doing this test, you get what you pay for. The cheaper microphones, while it's like, hey, I can get a mic for a couple $100, great. However, after hearing it again next to all these other microphones, it could be so much more for just a little bit more money. Now you're probably thinking, well, the NTG-3 is twice the price of a DADS2. True, but I found a used Rode NTG-3 once for $300. Proof that miracles do happen. Now you may be asking, I always get asked this question, can I use an NTG-2? Is that just as good? I love Rode. I love their products. I love, them trying to make affordable things for everybody. And their customer support is through this universe. It's the greatest. However, the NTG-2, I can't recommend. I do not recommend it. When people say, oh, should I get it? I say absolutely not. Go somewhere else. Because the noise floor is not great and the tone is not great. Now, those two things, when you get into post, are going to play a big role in how you treat your film. So for example, if you shoot your film with a lot of noise, like your ISO is super high because your camera sucks in low light, that's going to create a lot more problems in post. So it's the same thing with a microphone. If you've got a high noise floor, if your tone isn't exactly what you wish it would be, it's going to create a ton of problems in post. So if you just get a slightly nicer microphone that on the way in sounds that much better, then your post work is next to none. So that's why I say when people ask, should I get the NTG-2? I say, no, save your money, save up, wait a little bit longer and get an NTG-3 because it's an investment that you won't get rid of. I always see people getting an NTG-2, a couple months later they get the 3, and then they're trying to get someone to get rid of the NTG-2 for them. Now you may be wondering, well, what would you get? Out of all these microphones, what one would you recommend? If I were to get one single microphone and I had the budget, I would go with the CMIT-5U. It consistently performed the best in almost all our tests, and it's just a great microphone. However, if you're looking for just an all-around great microphone that you can constantly rely on 24/7, regardless of how many beatings it will take, humidity, wet, people dropping it, throwing it, looking bad at it, giving dirty looks, whatever, the Rode NTG-3 and the Sennheiser 416 would be my top pick. They're affordable, relatively, and they sound amazing, and they'll get you through anything. And I know that there's going to be diehard audio guys that will say, the 416 is way better than the NTG-3, that sucks, it's a Rode product, it's whatever. My answer to you, okay. Question, should you get a lower end microphone? Like I said, I would recommend saving up and getting an NTG-3. Do you find yourself doing a lot of improv type scenarios? I would highly recommend the Sanken CS-3e. Can't recommend that enough for those situations. If you have an unlimited budget, I know it's stupid to say, but I would recommend getting all of them. Now you don't necessarily need a 416 and NTG-3, but keep in mind, microphones are like lenses, okay? Your 24-70 is going to do a lot of stuff pretty well, but it's not gonna do everything. You can't get macro shots with it. You can't get fisheye shots with it. So it's just like microphones. People are like, oh, well, I want to accomplish this thing. It's like, well, you probably should get this microphone because it's just gonna do a way better job than your 24-70. It'll just do it right. Rather than, like I said, playing around in post, trying to make something work out of something that you captured it with that it's not meant quite to do that. So if you have the budget, I'd recommend getting the CMIT-5U, a 641, Sanken CS-3e, and either an NTG-3 or a 416. With that, you will be prepared for any situation that comes your way. Now, the biggest lesson out of all the lessons I learned doing this and out of all the surprises I came across was how little of a difference all of this made. And it's funny to me because Doug and I originally had a 1 through 8 system. So each mic would go through, in order 8 points. However, when we started doing all the tests, it was like we were just sitting there like, I think this one, maybe? And usually it was like, okay, this 1 or 2 was the better of these, and these 1 or 2 were definitely the worst. But as far as that middle group, it was hard to distinguish because each thing was maybe a little bit different, but to say one was way better or worse than the other, you can't. It's sixes at that point. So a lot of people stress out that they have the wrong gear or, oh, when I get X piece of gear. Like the entire reason for building this video, Parker called me and he said, I've got a Sennheiser 416 in my cart. I'm looking to upgrade from the NTG-3 and, I'm going to buy it on B&H, whatever. And I was like, well, how do you know that that's an upgrade? How do you know that that's what you want? And he's like, oh, because it's better. It's more expensive. Everyone in Hollywood uses the 416. And I was like, well, why don't we test out some different microphones so you can actually hear for yourself if that's something you really want to do? So we did. And that's how this whole video was born. And both of us were like, yeah, the differences between these microphones, not as big as you would think, not as big as you would hope. So is the Sheps worth, 2.5 times the cost of the Rode NTG-3? Maybe. For me, as someone who does this professionally, yeah, it is. But if you do it occasionally or you shoot like corporate videos and you're a one-man show, it would be hard to argue that that is a massive upgrade that would completely change your entire production. The best thing that you can do is learn these microphones. Learn how they work. Learn the characteristics of what they do. Like I said, the NTG-3, the way to boom that is going to be a lot more loose than a 416. You'd have to be a lot more sharp and nailing that sweet spot every single time. So by learning the tools, and this applies to everything, you're going to get a lot further than saying, oh, well, I've got this, I'm going to drop this much money so then I can get better. No, absolutely not. Learn your tools so you can improve your craft. And then only at that point, if you can really hear a difference, then you can justify an upgrade. But if you can't hear a difference between these tests we just did, there's no reason for you to go out and buy a CMIT 5U. Absolutely not. That would be a complete waste of money and your time. So, having said all that, thank you for joining me for this shootout. It was a ton of fun. We all had a ton of fun, even though our ears were very tired after listening to the same 2 sentences for an entire day. It was totally worth it because I've been able to improve how I do things on set because I think about all these tests we ran through and say, well, you know what? Maybe this would be a lot better choice for this scenario. So hopefully we could do the same thing for you. You can think about these decisions a little bit more, be more conscious of it, and of course, go out there, make amazing films, and learn your tools. This is Brendan, by the way, that audio guy, signing off.